Hello, DEC members and guests. Welcome to the 15th annual meeting with our Detroit Tigers, and certainly my favorite meeting of the year because most of you know I am a baseball nut. I'm Steve Gregorian, President and CEO of the Detroit Economic Club. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. A couple of quick announcements before we get started. I always want to take a brief moment to thank the terrific DEC sponsors for their continued support of our mission, and you're seeing them on your screen. And I want to thank you for continuing to support the DEC with your membership. A couple of quick programming notes for you sports fans. June 8th, we will host Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren. And finally, to end up our spring season, June 15th, we have the Mayo Clinic CEO joining us. In between, plenty of other events for you, so get those on your calendar and get your tickets. You also already know how important it is to the DEC that we include high school and college students. And today we want to say welcome to students from Clarkston, Southfield, Southeastern, Divine Child, Eisenhower High School, Providence High School from Canada is joining us, and to the following college students: U of M Dearborn, Schoolcraft College, Macomb Community College, and yes, of course, I saved the very best for last, students from my alma mater, Albion College. But welcome to all of you students. And finally, I do want to take a moment and thank a couple of organizations for making this day possible. It's never lost on us what a privilege and honor it is to host the Tigers each and every year. I'm not sure I've ever heard of another MLB team that does something as cool as this. So I want to thank Chris Illich and the Illich organization and the Detroit Tigers management for this amazing opportunity. So let's get started. I'm so appreciative our guests are with us. They really need no introduction, so I'll keep it very short. Al Avila is the Executive VP and GM of the Detroit Tigers and has been a great friend to the Detroit Economic Club. AJ Hinch is in his first season as Detroit Tigers manager, and we want to give him a warm Detroit Economic Club welcome. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, we're blessed to have some premier TV and radio announcers in this town, and the voice of Detroit Tigers baseball on radio, Dan Dickerson, is right there at the top. Before I turn it over to Dan, I want to say thank you a million times to Al, AJ, and Dan for the valuable time. And now, Dan, welcome in, and please take it away.
All right, Steve, thank you. Thanks, AJ and Al. And I think, we're 48 games into this season. And I think for those who haven't been following along maybe day by day, like Steve does, I thought it'd be good to just kind of start with, we know what the record is through 48 games. Kind of a tough stretch there in April into early May, a much better month of May, much more competitive day to day. I thought we'd just start with both of you in terms of what you have seen in terms of some of the positive developments so far in this season and some of the progress you have seen with this team. And why don't we start with you, Al, in terms of just kind of the general overview 48 games in?
Well, from the very beginning, and AJ had mentioned it several times from early on, that we wanted to get the pitching right, and we wanted to make sure that that development continued in a positive manner and be successful at it. And we've seen it now develop, and Casey Mize and Spencer Turnbull and Tarek Skubal as of late, really making big progress this year in that manner. So and Matt Boyd obviously bouncing back and pitching to his capabilities also. And one of the things that I think doesn't get talked about much is, Jose Urena was kind of like a little bit of a roll of the dice, to tell you the truth, as a comeback guy, but a guy that was healthy and has great stuff. And he's pitched very well up to his capabilities in the starting rotation. So from the pitching, as far as starting pitching, we've done a marvelous job. The players have really done well. We've got one of the best starting rotations in Major League Baseball. So we've got to feel very good about that. Quite frankly, coming out of spring training, I think AJ would have told you the same thing. We actually expected the bullpen to be better. And so that's been a little bit mixed results, but we do have a lot of potential there that we're still working with. Michael Fulmer has come back, really been a tremendous force in the bullpen for us. Gregory Soto obviously is still a work in progress, but you can see the big arm and really some big games that he's pitched for us. And so we're making, some good progress there. I think Funkhauser's making, obviously he gave up the home run yesterday, but overall he's really making putting up a step forward in that sense. So we've got to be happy with the pitching for now, the way that's progressed. And quite frankly, in the minor league, we've got some guys coming, as you know, Matt Manning, he's given up some home runs, but overall, really, he's making good progress there. And you don't have to go further than that. I mean, you could go now to Erie and see guys like Elvin Rodriguez, throwing no hitters, and shutouts. Paul Rashawn also pitching well. And so, throughout the minor leagues, we've got guys that people don't talk too much about, but there's more guys coming there. So we feel pretty good about the pitching right now as we move forward, knock on wood, keeping everybody healthy. And the biggest challenge will be is getting through the whole entire season and making sure that, we don't overtax them with the innings, obviously because of last year's shortened season. So, as far as the position players, obviously you can see that we're still trying to figure some things out, who are going to be the mainstays and who's going to be a future and things of that nature. I think Willie Castro right now is still a work in progress, and guys are working with him very hard, but the potential is there. The two catchers in Haas and Rogers, obviously we can see, the difference behind the plate from a defensive perspective. And in the infield, you got guys like Harold Castro and Jamer Candelario really coming through. Now Nico's been a little bit inconsistent, but obviously, we're continuing to work with him. So actually, probably one of the bigger issues that we've had is kind of guys like Jonathan Scope, who's been, a veteran guy that we brought in to kind of stabilize that lineup. He came in late, several weeks late, so that he started a little bit behind everybody else. So he's just catching up now. And we all know how tough it is to catch up once the season starts. But now that the weather's getting warmer and he's been around for several weeks, and we expect him to really step up and take off from where he left off last year. And in the outfield, Robbie Grossman's been as advertised. A true professional at bats, professional in the clubhouse, and just the way that he does everything on the field and off the field. So he's been a blessing to us as we move forward. And I look forward to having him the rest of the year and next year. So, and in the outfield, obviously you've got to be, Akil Baddoo was the talk of Major League Baseball for a whole month. And if you see his numbers today, they're very good numbers, very respectable numbers. And when you just think that this guy hadn't played beyond A ball, it's really mind-boggling. And but right now, AJ and his staff are doing a tremendous job with him, and we think we have a really good player for our future there. So overall, the wins and losses are not where we want them to be. We went through a stretch there that we lost some games, and we talked about it just the other day. If we just had a few things that went better for us along the way there, our record would be very different. And but we do feel good about the progress. We don't feel good about the wins and losses where we're at right now, but we do feel that this team will play better, win more games as the season develops. And at the end of the year, which is the main goal here, is to find some players that will be there to help us win as we move forward in the future.
AJ, you've talked a lot about the instilling that winning mindset. What are some of the things that you see? You've done this in Houston. What are the signs to you that it's starting to take root? Because that's going to be a process.
No, it is. And I think, I think the process is well underway. I think when you're down in the clubhouse and in the dugout and on the field, we're trying to establish that idea of it's about today's game, and you either won or you lost. And that setting that bar pretty high for this group is important. And then we got to figure out, how to maximize each guy. I don't want to concede anything. I don't want to concede today's game. I know we're making progress. I know we're seeing a lot of good things. We're also seeing a lot of areas that we need to get better at. And, but that mindset starts with preparation. And I think we've found our way to communicate with these players. I think the players have bought in, the coaching staff we're all pretty new. So I would say that the state of the team in the first 40 to 50 games has been an acclimation process that a lot of businesses go through. When you're a leader and you're new and you're trying to get to know your people, or you're trying to get to know your process. We're doing it in a competitive environment with, there are expectations at this level, but progress is seen as a positive. But you got to find a way to win today's game, and that bringing that your best version of yourself every day is something that we're challenging our players with. And obviously we're learning a lot about them, and we're learning a lot about ourselves in the areas that we need to go get better at. And I think we're taking steps forward. I think all of us just want it to go faster. We want it to be fixed right now.
Al, you talked about the pitching. The rotation right now is top 5 in the American League. And fans who are watching need to know how big an improvement that is from a year ago. It's almost 2.5 runs better by ERA than last year's shortened season. When you're talking about building a winning team, Al, and you're putting the pieces together, pitching, defense, offense, a good starting rotation is not a bad place to start.
That's paramount. We talk about it every day. When our starting pitching goes 6 innings and keeps us in the game, you have a chance to win every single game. Now, that's not the only way, but that's the paramount. That's the most important thing for us. Obviously, you need good defense, and then you need timely hitting. And, our defense has let us down. We've had tremendous pitching performances, and then all of a sudden we make an error here, an error there. And then, it puts more pressure on the offense, obviously. So there's a lot of areas to clean up for sure. But that's why, the pitching right now, which is the most difficult thing, you go out in the free agent market, it's the most expensive thing that you're gonna get. Number one, it's going to be also the most riskiest from a health perspective, injuries. So, I've said it from day one. We need to have a good nucleus of homegrown pitching talent, which we're developing as we speak. One other guy that I didn't mention, I'm going to mention now, Joey Wentz is coming back from Tommy John surgery. I saw him a week ago, pitched his first game in Lakeland, the Gulf Coast League. And yesterday he pitched his first game in Lakeland. So slowly but surely he's finding his way back too, and he'll be part of that process. So yeah, pitching is important. And then, obviously we got to improve the defense in the main positions. Right now we feel good with Rogers and Haas behind the plate from a defensive perspective. Shortstop, center field, these are key areas. Obviously, when you're looking at, winning game after game after game, you got to have solid, consistent defense to go along with that solid, consistent pitching.
Yeah. AJ, you're certainly seeing the effects of having those pitchers. And I think what fans need to know is the trend in baseball is to go from, fewer and fewer innings for your starting pitchers. We have seen these young pitchers, you're really kind of pushing them, have to learn how to get through a lineup a third time so they can go consistently later in their careers, 6 and 7 innings.
Yeah, it's a mindset for these guys. I know I believe in the analytics and the information, and my background is heavily weighted in that, but I also believe in competition and seeing what the pitchers can do. Part of the reason why teams pull guys third time through is this fear of what has happened in the past, and I think you have to be careful and diving too far deep into that and not really seeing what you're seeing. It's funny. Everybody will say you got to pull your starting pitcher third time through. Who would have walked out to the mound with Spencer Turnbull third time through last week during? I don't think it's just not a one size fits all. You got, not everybody is entitled to pitch deep into the games. Not everybody's going to fail if you pitch them deep into games. It's a work in progress, but the mentality of the starting pitchers is you need to go as long as you can, as good as you can, and give your team a chance to win. We're in a stretch in our season right now where our group is doing that, and they're feeling the benefit, and we are feeling the benefit of having that good starting rotation. When you wake up in the morning, old school used to be you pick up the USA Today and you would look at the pitching matchup. I feel pretty good about our pitching matchup every given night.
Right.
And that's a good start. It does not guarantee success, but it does give you a good start to the day when you feel like your pitcher is going to give you a chance to win.
AJ, I thought you made an interesting point about sometimes you have to kind of massage the messaging, or you're big on communication, but you have to kind of tweak the messaging a little bit to make sure that what you're trying to get across gets across. That's been a process for you.
It has. I think there's a learning curve of guys back and forth, and we spent all of spring training. I wish if I'd had a little camera with me, or if I'd had if you could walk side by side with me, the level of communication with some of these young players, Tarek Skubal last night, Casey Mize throughout the year, even Spencer Turnbull over the course of the last couple of months, it's different than it was when we first walked into the building in Lakeland during spring training. And again, I know these are business people on this call, and it's very similar when you walk into a building and trying to set a tone and a culture. So I love the fact that we've had, and then as coaches, our job is not necessarily always for them to have to adapt to us. We have to adapt to them. This is 2021. People learn in different ways than we did back in the day. And so our job is to be malleable enough to teach these guys in different ways. Maybe the first way we send a message doesn't work. We got to find a second way to send the message. Maybe some guys communicate daily. I will talk to Casey Mize every day. We talk baseball, we talk life, we talk wine, we talk marriage. There's nothing that we don't talk about. Other guys are a little bit more reserved and a little bit more laid back. They're not as conversational as my answers are going to be long on this call because I like to talk. So there are just ways that you have to learn your people in order to get the most out of them. We're hopefully doing that at a faster rate, but it's areas that we're focused on.
I want to spend the last few minutes before we turn it back over to Steve, just talking about, first of all, having the minor leagues back this year and how important that is for this franchise. People should know, if they don't already, this is a consensus now, top 5 farm system. MLB Pipeline has the Tigers ranked second of the 30 teams with their farm system. Al, let's just start with, how good is it to have the minor leagues back, and how important is this to have that season underway?
It's a big relief, and it's very important to our organization as we move forward. Obviously, it wasn't good for a guy like Spencer Torkelson, where his college season stops in March when they just get going, and then no season last year. That's basically almost 2 years without playing baseball. And a lot of these guys, fell into that. But we have to get over that and move forward. And so, we're not in a position where we're going to rush guys and make them play at higher levels where they're not ready. We're going to have to monitor their innings pitched, things of that nature. So it's very delicate right now. But in saying that, we do have some talent, plenty of talent, I think, in the minor leagues right now that will be moving forward. And we're going to be counting on these guys in a very short, near future. So we feel good about it at this point. It's just slow progress right now, but it will get, it'll speed up as the season develops and we move forward into the following years.
I wanted to talk about the 2 hitting prospects, Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green, just because truly, I think you have to go back probably to the mid-'70s in this organization to find a time when you had 2 prospects of their nature in terms of their upside and what they might be able to provide in the middle of the order for this team in the years ahead. Al, can you just describe what separates them from other prospects that we might have seen in the last, 10, 20 years?
Well, first of all, they were first-round picks. They're elite prospects with a lot of high-end talent. And Riley Green, what we have here is a really intelligent baseball player with great instincts, and a high energy guy that can play good defense, plus runner, power, but could also hit for average. An on base guy. It's really the full package that you would want in the middle of your lineup. A well-rounded player. He's an all-star caliber type guy. With Torkelson, obviously you have the huge power, but again, it's not we didn't draft in our minds a guy that was going to be high home runs and high strikeouts. Right. We drafted a guy we felt is going to be, he's going to have home run power, but he's going to be a guy that's going to hit for average. He's going to have a good on base percentage. A well-rounded hitter, not just a power strikeout type of guy. So that in itself makes him unique. And obviously, and I don't think people realize this about Torkelson, he's an athletic guy. There were some doubts at third base, and quite frankly, he's done very well at third base. We're playing him more now at first base because we feel that there might be a bigger need there down the road, but he's right now in a position where he can play either one. Not too different than Miguel Cabrera when he was a young guy coming up the system. I signed Miguel as a shortstop. Right away, he moved over to third base. His first time in the big leagues was left field. And then from left field, he went back to third, back to first, back to third, and so he's played them all, and he's played them all very well. And he's turned out to be obviously a Hall of Fame hitter. I'm not comparing Torkelson to a Hall of Famer by any means, but he's that kind of player where he's going to hit for power, he's going to hit for average, he's going to get on base, he's going to have his RBIs, and he's going to be a good defensive player and at one of the corners wherever he's going to be needed at some point. And so that combination with Riley Green in the outfield, where he's got the solid defense, plus runner, he's got the power also, and the on base accolades there. It's a great combination to have in the middle of the lineup.
Real quickly before we turn it back to Steve, AJ, you got a chance to see both of those guys in the spring, and Torkelson struggled, and you said, you know what, it's okay if they struggle. This is part of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't wish failure on them, but I kind of like that they have to fight and grind, and it's not a magic carpet ride up to the big leagues. I mean, a lot of times these players, whoever's in the big leagues at one point was the best player on their team, whether that's in the minor leagues or whether it's in their amateur days. Like these guys are used to performing and being the best players. When you have to fight a little bit in the minor leagues on your journey and you have to learn how to play, Riley's 20, Torque's 20, 21, like it's okay for them to have a little bit of adversity. I mean, you don't want them to get mentally beat down, but you want them to have to fight to get up to the big leagues. So nowadays we pay so much attention every day on what they're doing. The exposure of these kids. Back in the day, you would throw them away in the minor leagues and just let them. You'd never hear from them again until they moved up. Now we have video, we have information, we have feedback, we have reactions every single day. And I think we have to have some patience, but we also have to have some optimism that these guys can come up. But they'll let us know by their performance and by how they're enduring the journey what their timeline is. We can't set the timeline for them. But they're talented. Now they have the talent. Cool. Now they got to go learn how to compete and how to play and how to exceed at this level as they get better and better.
And both are here.
Dan, one other thing too that didn't exist 20 years ago, the attention and the media coverage that these top picks get now are really, it's as much as we get at the big league level. AJ mentioned, years ago, you drafted a guy, you sent him to the minor leagues, quite frankly, you didn't hear much about him. I remember in Miami when I drafted Josh Beckett, number 2 overall in the nation, when we sent him to the minor leagues. All right. I mean, you hardly heard of him until he got to the big leagues. And of course, he got there quickly. It was an MVP and all that. But that's the way it was. Now the coverage is so great. It's tremendous. Now it's a whole different perspective for the player, because now we're following him every single at bat in the minor leagues. And so, you're there, you're not disappearing. You're in the big public eye every single day, which is a big difference now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Steve, you've got some questions from our audience.
We do. Thanks. But before I say go to the question. Dan, thank you. You are a pros pro. We appreciate your time. Hope you can stick around the remaining few minutes. So
absolutely.
Thank you, Al and AJ. We've gotten a few questions emailed from our DEC members. I'm going to start with AJ, and DEC member Matt wants to talk about the shift. And he says, what school of thought are you in? The shift is part of the problem of today's game and therefore should be banned, or get over it. It's here to stay and it's really good for the game.
That's a loaded question because that's a big topic. So thanks for starting me off with that one. But I think the shift in itself is designed to prevent hitting. I mean, that's why we do it. Doesn't happen all the time. It is maddening whenever somebody hits a ball opposite of the shift and they're like, oh, if you just played normal. Well, the reason we don't play normal is because call it 70-75% of the time we're expecting a different result. And we expect them to roll over to ground ball to the right side or left side, whichever batter it is. I'm in the school of thought that I'm tired of talking about it. So if the game will be better and we can just, it will broaden the scope of the game by having sort of an offsides the same way that they have in other sports. And we got to play people, in sort of some soft shifting. I'm all for it, which is a shock because I've probably put in the shift as much as any manager in baseball over the course of the last 5 or 6 years. But I think it's become a growing topic of how we don't have offense in the game. And and the reason is we pressure people by having them do things that they don't normally do. So I'm in the camp of let's figure it out together. Let's make it one rule and let's play baseball. I don't think we should just fall back into everything that we've always done over and over again, but we have to evolve as a sport. And if evolving as a sport means take some traditional values back, then I would rest in that camp, or I'm trending to going towards that camp. But tonight against the Indians, I'm shifting all these guys as they pull the ball.
Shift away. If that gets us a W, go for it.
That's right.
Thank you. Al, a question from DEC member Amy, who says, I've listened to many of the CEOs that have been interviewed at the Detroit Economic Club via Zoom, and they talk about things they think will stick around post-pandemic. Baseball implemented starting extra innings with a man on second and also 7-inning doubleheaders. Give us your thoughts on whether both are here to stay.
I do believe so. In talking to other general managers, because MLB does ask our opinions, as well as the field managers, and I think I wouldn't say it's 100% of all the managers and general managers that believe in this, but I think the majority do. And speaking to many of them over the course of the year, I think there's a big majority that want it and want it to stay, and I believe it will.
Very good. Just a couple minutes left. AJ, I think this would be interesting for our members to hear. You played baseball at Stanford, the same time Tiger Woods was on Stanford's golf team, and you two developed a relationship. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I happened to be at school. It was like Morse timing. I mean, there's nothing more to it than that. And we both got injured at the same time. I hurt my shoulder, he hurt his knee. And so we met in the training room at Stanford and just started a little bond, and then ended up in a similar social group and kind of hanging out as college kids. At Stanford, it's a bubble. You literally don't go off campus. Everything that you need is right there. It's a small school, compared to some of the colleges around the country. So I just developed a nice little relationship with them, and I've stayed in loose contact with them, not close contact with them a ton, but competitively, like all colleges, you try to outdo each other. He thought he could play baseball. I thought I could play golf. Neither was true. So it's been a nice banter over the years. In the 17 World Series, he's a big Dodger fan. He ended up in the front row right by our dugout. So there was nice little banter. And at the Stanford Hall of Fame, induction a few years ago, he was the guest speaker for Nota Begay. And so I got a chance to see him there, and just obviously followed his career as the ups and the downs, and certainly the dangers of the car wreck a few weeks ago. But definitely somebody in my past that I've been lucky enough to cross paths with.
That's great. We wish him the best in his recovery. And then a final question, and we'll let you guys get on to prepping for today's game. It's to both of you. Are there any facial hair rules you can implement given Jake Rogers' mustache?
Well, I can tell you that AJ doesn't like it, and neither do I.
I tried to give you a good story. I tried to set a bet with Rogers the other day. And I'm always trying to find ways to get him to shave it. And the more I talk, I think it's actually reversed. The more I've talked about it, the more he thinks that everybody likes it. So I might have to go to Chris here one of these days and meet with him and Al and just say organizationally, we need like a 1-week facial hair policy just to get that thing off his lip.
Very good. Well, listen, a huge thank you to Al, AJ, and Dan for spending time with the Detroit Economic Club. We wish you all the best this season. We'll be watching and listening, and we look forward to hosting you in person again before 1,000 people for our 16th annual event in 2022. So thanks to Ron Colangelo and team for helping us. Thanks to my team. Thanks to all you DEC members for continuing to support us. Your membership is very important to us. Have a strong week. Stay safe. Get a darn vaccine. Hope to see you at Comerica Park, and go Tigers. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, Dave.